We are a country of 1.4 billion people, and when it comes to digital identities, 1.4 physical people, but digital entities in the 1.4 is going to be around 4 billion plus. We see a lot of welcoming when we are talking to industries. One positive thing is, as a Make in India business, there's a lot of things that get welcomed. Of course, you're scrutinized a bit more because of past some of the things that I've done. But I see agencies understand the problems, the challenges that are there.
I'm glad to host Ankush, who's been founder and CEO of Pilabs. The introduction has already happened. So just wanted to ask Ankush to start with, so you've been quite passionate about AI, cybersecurity, and a lot of deep tech, in fact, a lot of deep tech. So if you have to go to one particular topic, for example, let's take deepfakes, which is today's major topic. So just wanted to, can you just tell your personal story as to how this entire thing started and why you got into this developing, secure measures to counter deepfakes? How did it all start? Can you just?
So thank you for hosting me here. How it started, I've been following a very simple philosophy around deep tech, which is whenever a new digital tech comes, now whether it is last journey I did was in mobile and cloud, there are new threats that comes, and the threats are exponential. And what happens is that, we are always fascinated by the productivity outcome it gives. Now, whether it is mobile, cloud computing, let's say the last one that we saw, we always miss on the cybersecurity aspects. And I always say this, in the digital realm, cybersecurity is an afterthought. And I'll explain on this, right? We don't build for cybersecurity upfront. So what I have been doing in my career is following simple philosophy. Any new exponential tech that is happening, try to build a defensive stack for this, right? So when I was starting Pilabs around a few years back, AI was the buzz of the town. We all were excited about AI can do this, AI can do that, AI can bring in this productivity, that productivity. I said, great. But you were hearing little murmurs about what problems AI can cause, right? We see it as an afterthought. That's where I say cybersecurity in the digital world is an afterthought. The problems that they come as an afterthought. We are one of those tech companies which we try to guess. We are not always right. We try to guess what problems it can cause. Luckily, this time we are being proven right. So that's how we thought, let's look at the side effects of AI that will cause problems to citizens, governments, enterprises, and build a defensive stack. That's how the journey, of deepfake detection started. And I strongly believe, I have been in the defense tech, military tech, intelligence tech. I always have been believing that the real innovation first happens in the defense and the military space. Now you look at the past, if I have to give you by example, all key innovations were done by DARPA, whether it was the internet,
True.
Whether it was the geosatellites, whether it was the mobile communication or the wireless communication, all were done for military. Then they come to the enterprise, or then they come to the consumer grade. So my take is, when you build for defense military, it's because it is taking decisions which could matter lives. It has to be rock solid. A 20% lower version can work in enterprise, not demeaning enterprise that they buy bad quality stuff, but a 20% lower version, because they are not going to operate something in Siachen, which is like minus 30 degrees. Enterprise don't have to do much there. And when it comes to consumer tech, it's maybe 10% even lower, can work, right? So the variations of errors that you can have is higher. And so we build for defense military first, and then get into the enterprise and the consumer space. So that's a short story.
Yes, in fact, just to add to that, DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency of US, it is what DRDO is for India, DARPA is for US, and they have started the internet, in fact. So they're there from day one. The innovation starts from the great thought, in fact, if you see. But coming back to AI and coming back to deepfakes, now the most affected people for the deepfakes might be, or what I think from my perspective are the women in general and the politicians. So what do you think, how women, and also maybe take separately politicians, how do they, what measures can they take to counter the deepfakes, and what is everybody else in the industry doing? Can you just throw light on that?
Yeah. So I think, that's too big category, and we have been in this space, they are attacked first. But I'll tell you, in the cybersecurity world, what happens is there's a group that gets attacked first, right? So typically, if you see people who have money and people who are vulnerable may not be that digital. So we are having a generation now which is growing up which is born digital, right? So have anyone seen आज एक 2 साल का बच्चा when I see in a restaurant वो बिना फोन देखे खाना नहीं खाता है, right? So I think वो बोलते हैं ना माँ बाप परिवार होता था तो माँ बाप phone, I think it's probably what order is true, I do not know depending on how the kid is growing up, but that's born digital kid, right? So attackers always think, you all would have seen Jamtara. So I think the Jamtara 3.0 is happening on something like deepfakes. So the vulnerability is, women, as you said, and celebrities, because that's where the impact is high. And the third is, you all would have heard of digital arrests. Yeah. And we have seen very affluent people, very well-educated people getting fallen trapped to that, right? Now, as I said, so your question is very tough one to answer, what we can do, right? So as tech, what we can do is we can build the preventive measures, we can drive campaigns. We had Amitabh Bachchan telling everybody, right, that Aadhaar OTP kisi ko mat do, but we are a country of 1.4 billion people, and when it comes to digital identities, 1.4 physical people, but digital entities in the 1.4 is going to be around 4 billion plus. And to tell you the number of SIMs that we have around 1.4 billion people, 1.4 billion people में बच्चे भी हैं, सबको बात नहीं करनी है, but can anyone take a guess how many SIMs India has and how many still the telecom company are selling the SIMs? Yeah, that's true. Right. So there is a business driver that has to sell this. 1.4 billion people should be able to talk with 1.4 billion SIMs maximum. I'm taking out devices like what they're building on the IoT side. But the problem starts from there. And so to do this, we always have to build a preventive stack. So what I think is where the attack happens today. Now somebody is having an attack through access through a mobile phone, through a PC. Typically, that's how the digital interaction or the spreads are failing. Can the platforms do enough? Can those edge devices do enough? They have to do. I think there are some initial discussions we are having with large manufacturers, OEMs, who want to build a defensive stack on the edge devices, build the preventive thing on laptops, phones. And second is you always have to educate, keep on educating people. Third is the bigger platforms. Where it happens, we have the large social media platforms, I won't name any. Can they control? They are the best ones to control. But the question I have is, do they want to control? Because we have a free Khan Academy giving great content, education content. Yeah. The number of users of Khan Academy versus, or let me put it this way, the number of teenagers using Khan Academy every day versus the number of teenagers using social media networks every day is going to be varied, right? So it's like this, what content sells, great content sells okay, stupid content sells more. So I don't know how much incentives they have to stop that on the platform. Or
the entertaining content.
Yeah,
in fact, if you see.
Absolutely.
So people go more for entertainment than, of course, knowledge building and all that. But that's good. So you have worked a lot in the area of cyber forensics and also with law enforcement agencies and also for defense tech and all that. So it's always like that, right? Criminals are always one step ahead of us. So where do we stand? What do you think the agencies that we're working with, can it be an assurance for citizens that things are really happening on that front? And are they really catching up? And where do we stand as far as this?
See, I'll tell you, it's always a cat and mouse play, right? And we are always behind when we are building the defensive or the preventive tech stack. But to assure you, we see a lot of welcoming when we are talking to industries. One positive thing is, as a Make in India business, there's a lot of things that get welcome. Of course, you're scrutinized a bit more because of past some of the things that have done. But I see agencies understand the problems, the challenges that are there. They understand, they're seeing the kind of frauds that are happening. And I think they're gearing up for that. And if you see, if you look at as a country, if you look at the budgets where they are spent, if you look at the MHA budgets on some of these things and the defense budget on some of these things, they're the largest in the country, right? They're largest in the country as percentage of our GDP. So, and they're very knowledgeable folks sitting on the other side, again, who are proactively looking for some of these things. The challenge is, what I say is between regulators, law enforcement, the challenge is what an innovator is building, they don't know upfront. We put it out, And then, we say, hey, the regulators are slow. And I think we are very unfair to the regulators.
That's pertinent, actually.
Right? It's very unfair to the regulator. The regulator does not know what new LLM model will throw up in next 30 days. And we expect them to understand that and regulate before it comes out, right? So I think a lot of times we are unfair. And I think we entrepreneurs have to take it on us, because if you're building tech for good, if AI is for good, why didn't we preempt the negative effect of that and onboarded regulators rather than an afterthought? I'll give an example right now. We are working with the RBI on very critical. We are a financially phenomenal country, right? The fintech is phenomenal in the country. Now, how many of you have visited a bank in last 3-4 years? Anyone who has gone to a bank branch?
I don't think anybody has gone.
Nobody would have, no, you may not know where your bank branch is, right? That's phenomenal. Our digital fintech is. Try to go to US, you will see that you're probably how many years back you are in the financial domain and how lucky we are here. So the question I want to have, that works on a fundamental principle of a video KYC today.
Yeah.
And every video KYC today can be bypassed using a deepfake threat.
Yeah.
Right. And then we have Jandhan accounts, and we have ton of NBFCs who proudly claim that मैं 15 minute में loan दे देता हूँ. I really do not know whether a country needs a 15 minute में loan or an individual needs a 15 minute loan. Do we really need that 15 minute में loan? Is it that critical problem to solve, right? And again, I come from defense tech and think like that. Somewhere I think fundamentally in our country, if you look at, we're talking about DARPA and some of the other things, first the innovation happens in defense and that it proliferates to every individual down. But when I look at our country, we had some phenomenal innovations happening in our country, like a 10-minute delivery. Isn't it great? बस 10 मिनट में धनिया से नींबू से मिर्ची लेके सब आ जाता है. पहले पड़ोसी करते थे, पड़ोसी इज लाइक अ कंपनी डिलीवरिंग टू यू कि भाई मुझे चीनी दे दो, मुझे नींबू दे दो. Imagine if that supply chain problem would have solved. We have Major Summer here. You ask him if he gets that 10 minute के बदले 1 घंटे में delivery दे दो defense में. Make it available in South Kashmir and Ladakh region. Imagine how happy our troops would be. And imagine somebody would have thought that problem there.
Yeah,
and sir
true.
Comes from a background too. आपको सर पानी में हम ऐसा कोई delivery कराए from coast to there, you will see. Yeah. So all I'm trying to say is, there's nothing wrong. No offense to anyone who they have created a phenomenal business, phenomenal technique. But I think we have to think the stack the other side down is what I feel as an entrepreneur building this space. Let's not build for defense. And I strongly say so because the ability to hurt your adversary is the ability to power to bargain. Right? It may sound good, bad, whatever. But I think that is what I believe in. The ability to hurt your adversary is your power to bargain, and to get them across the table is diplomacy. Right? And we as entrepreneurs need to do justice to our forces, our people who are doing that. We may have 5,000 problems with our procurement and this and that, but I tell everybody in my team, please work for me if you unconditionally love your country. Right? Because that is something, I'm a born citizen of India, I cannot change. I might have changed that, but I do not want to change that. But you need to unconditionally love your country. How bad the traffic of Kanpur is, let's solve that. That's an opportunity. Every mess is an opportunity, because a guy sitting in the Bay Area cannot understand Kanpur and cannot solve the problem of what Kanpur traffic needs.
Yes, great thoughts. In fact, if you see, just coming back to the aspect of, you mentioned about Jamtara and all that, right? So, not many people, many fraudsters in India are employing great technologies, right? They're doing an aspect of social engineering, right? Most of it is social engineering. They're trying to extract OTPs by putting you through an emotional, spin and everything, and then extract that particular thing. So, how do you counter this particular aspect? Is there a recognition there in the law enforcing agencies about this, and what is the countermeasures for this?
I think, sir, the law enforcement understand very well, but sir, just seeing this space very closely, the other side are very tech savvy, extremely tech savvy, right? So I'll tell you, today you can get a live deepfake detection tool at $10 a month on Telegram, right? And they're very tech savvy. Now the other parts are, but when you're tech savvy, you have to do social engineering. You need to know, if I have to try to call 100 people to get an OTP, where my odds are high. And that's where they use the social engineering brain. Like, so when we were trying to do some deepfake things, we test within our teams. Like I had one of my colleague putting my photo as deepfake, and we did a call to my mom, and she responded, right? I didn't speak, but she responded, right? That's the litmus paper test, I would say, right? That it's solved. As you're correctly saying, they do the social engineering, and if you see, right, that's where there's an age group. Like today, if I say we have the millennials who are who have made their money. If I look at the generation, right, the millennials have made their money, but they are the most vulnerable today, right? So I know for some cases in like right in Lucknow that have happened with top doctors on digital arrest, right? Imagine there's somebody, a top doctor, and they did not know that nothing, something like digital arrest does not exist legally.
Yeah.
Right. So the campaign has to be done. The educational campaign has to be done. The law enforcement understands that. And, I was sitting with the law enforcement guys in one of those cases. They say, you tell us, how do we tell a top researcher of the country that something like this police is not bad. And then second thing we have is, police station ke paas jana nahi hai.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, third thing I'll tell you, which you'll find surprising. Whether it's a loss of 1,000 rupees, 2,000 rupees, 10,000 rupees, it's very easy to scold the law enforcement. Yaar, hamara law enforcement bekar hai. But I'll tell you, you put your hand to heart and see. There are a lot of colleagues of mine, I'll tell you, sir, who have lost few lakhs of rupees, and there were two dilemmas they had. I am top of the tech league. Somebody made a fool out of me. I do not want to go to police and
That's
tell
true,
them.
that's
right.
true.
So that वो एक होता है ना कि मैं तो सुपर ह्यूमन हूँ, मेरे को कैसे हो गया, तो मैं बताऊंगा नहीं. अब आप बताओगे नहीं तो पुलिस कुछ करेगी नहीं. And you cannot say कि पुलिस कुछ करती नहीं है, आप गए नहीं, right? So उनके पास already 1000 problem है, अगर आप अपनी बताओगे they can't do, right? So that's the dilemma. But I think we as citizens, we need to help them. We need to go, and I'm telling you, they're not that bad. If you go them, give them the right data. And I have seen cases where, I don't know how many of you know how I4C today operates. It's phenomenal. If there's a financial fraud, there are very high chances of money getting recovered if you react within that golden period of that crime when it has happened. But unfortunately, there are a lot of other social stigma that we carry, that police station जाना बेकार है, और मैं तो Elon Musk हूँ तो मेरे को कैसे कोई fraud कर सकता है, are the problems. And that's societal problems we have to address.
Yeah, that's a dichotomy, in fact. So the bottom line is the digital literacy is one thing, and then coming to the digital trust, of course.
Correct.
For digital trust, maybe a normal human being, a normal citizen is not that much of a stakeholder as much as digital literacy, right? So where do you see, are we really building digital trust technologies in India, and are we really looking at becoming a global leader in this particular field? What's your take on this?
My take is, I have seen that since last 2 years, we have seen deep tech growing, right? And the 2-3 things that we need to understand is the ecosystem needs to bless it, right? C3I have a great example that they are building cyber security stuff for the entire nation here. My take is the investment has to come in. And again, when you're doing deep tech and doing cyber security, these are experimental. They do not pass. Like in my company, I say, guys, we need to have an award for failure of the year award. Right? We always celebrate success. But when you are a company in deep tech, you have to fail in a year on certain things, right? And we need to, as a country, we need to start embracing failure in tech and ensure that we can bet money on some of the right guys.
True.
To do that.
So, but another aspect of it is, are we really ready to embrace those failures? You've been an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, and you've been an investor also, right? You're investing in some startups. So, are we really there? Most of the founders are bootstrapped their companies and their startups, and they're not ready to brace the failures. But at the same time, how is the investment community looking into the deep tech startups? What are the challenges? If you can just sum it up.
I'll tell you, in the deep tech space, we need local money to come in. First question, right? So we are not seeing enough local money coming in. We still see investment coming, but if you see the investment cap table, you'll hardly see a local capital deployed. And if I have to solve a Kanpur problem, somebody from Kanpur or near to Kanpur has to put in some money on that, if you believe that, right? Somebody sitting in Beria won't even understand what a Kanpur problem is. So the local money has to come in. The entrepreneurs have to be true to themselves. And I tell entrepreneurs, don't build for the investor, build for the customer. And I'll tell you what Kaushik was saying. Entrepreneurs are right now chasing investments valuation. When you're doing that, you're building for the investor rather than the customer. And that's where you take some of the routes which probably the customer may never see. So I think it's a fine balance. As a country, again, we are very young. We are very young in the startup ecosystem. We sometimes get very unfair. We are not doing enough deep tech. But I think we have to be fair to ourselves. First, we need to make the ends meet, and then make sure that the ends are very far so that you again try to make them meet. And that's when the real deep tech play and all starts happening. We have to be fair to ourselves. But as a country, we need to love to embrace failure, right? Somebody tried to make an LLM of some XYZ thing which failed. But I'm telling you, in failure, there are 500 learnings that he would have got, which will help him to build the next company. But the investors need to embrace that, the parents need to embrace that, the family need to embrace that, and the teams need to embrace that. So that's why I say startup is the wrong word. It starts down.
Yeah.
The moment entrepreneurs and teams think they're starting down and start building things up is when they build meaningful outcomes.
Great thought, great conversation. In fact, good advice to a lot of people. To just to add to that, in fact, for all those people who are looking at the entrepreneurs, budding entrepreneurs looking at that, you should also make use of places like this, educational institutions, IITs, and other institutions. They're helping a lot. There's a lot of work that is being done to support startups. So you should make use of the ecosystem. In fact, that's from my side. So thank you so much, Ankush. It was a great conversation. A lot to talk, but with the time constraints, here we are. Thank you so much for your contribution.
Thank you, sir.